Good evening, classmates. During this course, I had the opportunity to interview and talk with an SLP, better known as a speech and language therapist. It complemented well what I was taught in class. I also learned that LAUSD speech and language therapists do not conduct a functional behavior analysis. Rather, that is a job for the student's case carrier or the school psychologist. Complementing what I learned, I also learned which assessments the SLPs do give when assessing a student. Now, they do not have a special assessment just for students with autism or an assessment that will identify a student with autism. Rather, what the assessments will do is it will identify strengths and needs within the student's language. And there are two particular tests that my SLP at my school gives. And the first one that my SLP gives is called the Test of Problem Solving 2, or TOPS. Now, this is a language-based assessment that checks for problem-solving skills, self-regulation, making inferences, analyzing problems. The students have to pay very close attention and process what they read. So they read a problem scenario, then they must think of a solution to the problem scenario that they have read. The other assessment is the CASEL, or better yet known as the Comprehensive Assessment of Spoken Language. This assesses specific language competencies, looks at lexical and semantic areas of language, syntax, and pragmatic language. Students with autism will often display difficulty, usually with language and communication skills. The assessments present a picture of what the student's capabilities are and what needs to be worked on. Certain characters of autism may surface. Such traits are averting eye contact or rocking behaviors. Some individuals also have other disabilities like ADHD or learning disabilities, which may make it even more difficult to focus and put sentences together. Now, when I did the functional behavioral analysis, it was very involved. Now, in my district, in LAUSD, that FBA, or the functional behavior analysis, can take up to 30 hours. And it's very, very involved. The CSAT carrier, who's the person who conducts the FBA, will contact all of the students' teachers and interview them. They'll ask what the problem behavior is. They will ask when it happens, how often it occurs. The teacher wants to get as many details as possible during these interviews, and the parents will also be interviewed, and any other service providers besides teachers will be interviewed as well for their insight. What I like most, though, is the ABC charts. Okay, I thought that was a very effective tool. And combined with the interviews, it really gives you good insight as to what the problem behavior is and what is motivating it. See, you need to understand the behaviors being observed. Doing an ABC chart might not be sufficient, but if you have the interview, especially with the parent, and they tell you what the child's interests are, whether like to socialize or not, that's really helpful in interpreting the data, finding what the function of the behavior is. And I'll make one reference to a case in point. One child that I was working with, that child would have they would basically engage in disruptive behavior whenever they were given an assignment. And they would, cause a reaction among the students, and that would give them some leeway not to do the assignment. Well, at first glance, it might seem that this student wants either teacher attention or student attention. But if you know that the child does not like a certain language arts exercise, and the disruption gives them some leeway not to start the assignment, I think there I found the function of that. And watching the student be helped, I noticed a decrease in the behavior. Rather interesting. As I've moved on, I now know how to conduct an FBA, and I've also honed my skills in interviewing professionals and parents. I have plenty to take away when it comes to working with individuals on the spectrum. I've learned a lot in the coursework that I've taken here. I've worked with students on the spectrum, and they've been mostly, it was very easy to work with them. Now, if a problem behavior shows up, I now have the tools to help that child overcome that behavior. So I can analyze with the ABC chart, the functional behavior analysis. I can look at the behavior, analyze it, using the data that I got from the analysis to help design a program for the child that is appropriate and meets their needs.